won't you come and stay a while? I know you're no good. You don't treat her like you should. As if I'm an island on which you never stood. You don't treat me that way. I stand by, watch you fuck who you despise. Watch a cloud of lust behind your eyes. They rest sweetly upon me, they wonder when she cries. You don't see me that way. True, false, true lover of the morning, she's the night. Where the good times are over, where won't you come and stay a while? Time to wash away, a flood to carry me to the end of the day, so I can sleep the dream to hear something you'll never say. You don't need me that way. True, false, true lover of the morning, she's the night. When the good times are over, where won't you come and stay a while?
Hello there, Internet world. My name is Lloyd Thayer, and this is a Intro to the Dobro workshop. If anybody's out there and has a question about the Dobro or the resophonic guitar, please feel free to ask it, and I will let you know what I think the answer is. Do we have a question so far?
We have one question.
We have one question.
George Cook has asked, have you ever tried the pedal steel, Lloyd?
Thank you for your question, George. I love you very much. Just between you and I and the rest of the internet, I was deeply moved to see you on the internet this morning with your lovely wife, playing in God knows what kind of format. Seemed like there was a bass player in the middle of you, but not in the same home. We'll talk about that sometime. Your ability to use technology marvels and amazes me. I'm really lost. Anyway, the question was, for anyone who's listening along at home, did I ever try to play the pedal steel? I do have a pedal steel, and I think you know that. I took the pedals off. It was above my pay grade. My little student Jack, who's 16, is currently taking pedal steel lessons from Karen Sarkisian, a great local player, and I should take some lessons too. The thing that got ahead of me with that was the pedals. Trying to do that at the same time with the hands is a lot. It's also the one that I have had two 8-string necks, and that was a lot for me too. 6 strings has been more than enough. So it really just dabbled a little bit. I still have that pedal steel, and I have the pedals that I took off it. If anybody would like to purchase it. Since we're all running out of money, in addition to toilet paper, if anybody wants to buy it, just go to my website and send me an email. All right. Do we have any other questions? All right. I guess I'll play a little bit more. Oh.
Here's a question from Peter Forbes. Talk about tunings, please.
Peter Forbes. Hi, Peter. Thank you for your question. So this tuning that I'm using right now is a standard Dobro tuning. It's GBD. And that's the tuning that I started with, and I recommend everybody starts with that. It's most accessible. Most of the instructional material is written in that tuning, and so that's a really safe bet. I probably spent a couple years with that before I moved to open D, which this Dobro is tuned to open D, D-A-D, F sharp, A-D. And these are the two main tunings that I use a lot. I tend to play solo, so that gives me a lot more freedom to kind of cover all the parts at once. D in particular, I should play something on that. If I'm going to play with other people, I will 90% of the time use this tuning, the G tuning. It's the tuning I'm most familiar with. I feel safest on the neck and stuff. And I know my scales and all that kind of thing on this the best. If I do use this alone to play blues and stuff. So if I was going to do something like this solo in open D, this is a lot of what I do is, alternate the bass between the 4th and the 6th strings. This also works well if you want to sing slow songs, just because you have the 2 basses there, 2 D notes as a bass. I'm keeping it moving because we only have a half an hour. The other tuning, if you're still alive and awake, Joseph, was it? This is just a tuning I've used. A D-A-D, G, based on an oud tuning. It doesn't really give you a chord, but I would use it for something like this. Which is a song that I wrote. There's a lot of room to do instrumental stuff with that, not necessarily working in a band maybe, but really depends on what you want to do. I have a lot of tunings. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, send me an email, but I have a lot of that on my webpage. If you go to my CDs that have instrumentals, they have pages that of information about what tuning, what songs are in what tunings and stuff. And the problem with that is a little bit of a slippery slope, because then you have to start carrying around more instruments with you, and that can get gnarly. So they do make a device called the hip shot, which is a tuning mechanism that you can put on your guitar. It's expensive. It's about $600, and it's another couple hundred for installation, but it allows you to switch between two tunings, and it will just drop straight into that other tuning. You can even do it in the middle of the song. So that's more than enough about tunings. Tunings are great. Okay, let's play some more music, shall we? I don't know. If anybody's still alive and listening out there, the first thing that I learned, I studied with Stacy Phillips. This is actually his Dobro. It's a 1935 Dobro. And he had it for probably 45, 50 years. So somebody else had it. It's 85 years old, I think now. So somebody else had it before him. And so the first thing I learned from Stacy was a C major scale. And that's usually what I teach people. It's, for me, the easiest thing to do is just hit this in an open tuning and kind of slap around. And that's great, but what Stacy taught me was to make sure I knew where the notes were on the neck and kind of where I was going, and that was an important part of it. And the reason that he showed me C instead of G was that it's in a closed position, and so I wasn't relying as much on the open strings. And you can't see maybe from that viewpoint, but what I did was I went up one way and I came down another, and just getting to know the neck like that, it really started to be able to see the relationships between chords and sort of understand. For me, it was a big leap forward in being able to understand music, which on the regular guitar, you know, making sense of a G chord and then moving into something else didn't really connect for me. But with this, it was sort of all linear and in patterns. It just made a lot more sense to me. So by playing that scale, that brings me up to the 4-chord F in the key of C. And then the 5-chord is right there. And most of that information on here is between 7 frets, your 1 chord, and your 5-chord, 7-fret spread. So all the information is in there to make sort of basic songs and sort of connect them. Another helpful part of that, which is really important part of playing in this style, if you're not George Cook and using a pedal steel, is that you got to be able to slant the bar. So if I'm playing by C, I can slant the bar to get that F, and that may be difficult for you to see, but so being able to know where those slants are. Some of them are on the first 2 strings. Some of them are between strings 3 and 1. They're all over the neck really, but it's a way to connect chords again. And in some ways it depends again on what you're doing as a player. I'm playing alone a lot, but if you're playing in a band with other people, the great part about that is you can let them do the work. You know, they've got the bass covered or the chords or certain things. You don't have to move as much. So you can get away with that for your F chord, which is A and F. There's no C in it. It's just same thing with my G. I got a B and a G, the 1 and the 3, and that's it. No 5 there. But this is all within 2 frets of each other. 1 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, 1 chord. No other questions. We still have a lot of time left. Would you like to hear about my time in the Merchant Marines? What else should I say about the Dobro or Resophonic guitar? Since this is a bluegrass workshop, I would encourage you to listen to as much bluegrass music as you can. This is a great CD to have. It's called The Great Dobro Sessions. It came out in 1994. Like, buy the actual CD. Don't use Spotify. No one makes any money except for the people at Spotify. Oh, I shouldn't say that on the air, should I? Oops. Anyway, Great Dobro Sessions. 21 songs. It's got them all. Jerry Douglas, Josh Graves, Tut Taylor, Rob Ike, Sally Van Meter, Stacy Phillips. Yeah. Anyway, a lot of great players on here. It'll just give you an idea of what the guitar can do. And a lot of them are sort of, not all of them, but some of them are sort of the bluegrass standard stuff that you need to know if you're going to be able to, if you're going to play in this style. So what else should I say about that? Another helpful thing for you to do at the beginning of your Dobro career is to be able to play a good clean single note, and you're using this piece of steel, right? And one of the really important things is that you point this down at the string. So I'm going to pretend my finger is the bar. It's like I'm pointing at the notes like this when I'm making my scale. Da, 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 da. I didn't sing the actual notes I played. Rather than having it on the thing like this, most of the time you're not going to do, it depends, but you're not going to be playing a lot of chords with the bar like it is right now over all the strings. And that's the mistake I see new people make all the time, is they have the bar flat and they're trying to move it. And that may sound okay to you, but there's a lot of extra stuff, slidey stuff happening in there, which after a while tends to cause nausea and vomiting as a side effect. So be careful with that. And what you want to do is just, like I said, point it down at an angle. I would say it's roughly a 45-degree angle. Don't get me started on 45-degree angles. And then behind the bar, I want to have somebody down damping. I've got this somebody and this somebody, my ring finger and my pinky. They're on the rest of the strings to block that noise. Just got a little emotional. Sorry. Not sorry. Anyway, this is what I was taught, is that this could be an anchor for me, right? If I can do this with my fingers, these two guys can be an anchor. My bar is going to be over here. It's going to keep me in place. And I can play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can play the first 6 notes of that major scale without moving my left hand. so it gives me this nice stable base to work from. I believe we have some more questions.
Question from Matt. Do different types of bars give different tones?
Wow. Is that Matt Smith?
I believe so.
Oh, I should also say thanks so much, Matt Smith, for hosting all of this madness and for having me. If you were here right now, I would do this to you, which is to give you a big hug, but I'll give it to you virtually. I would also lick you in a non-inappropriate way from head to toe. Different types of bars can give different tones, absolutely. The other thing that they can do, the shape of them matters. This one has a lot of slope to the shoulders. I've got another one which doesn't, and I can use that to position it differently, which helps me a lot. There are also two different weights. There are some bars that are really heavy, and I'll get it. Some of them are monstrously heavy, and they, in theory, that's gonna make your note ring out a lot longer. But the downside of that, it's harder to move it around fast. This is the other bar that I was talking about. It's got a different profile. So this bar is easier for me to do slants on because I can hold it like that, whereas this one I can't as much, but whatever. The Indian folks over in India use these guys, which are round bullet bars. And it's hard to get weight on camera, but this bar's much lighter than the other ones, which I just figured out after many, many years, that this is like really, really light because they're doing a lot of that kind of thing, which is harder to do with those. Okay, that's more than enough of bar, but there's another question. Bar stuff.
Who are some of your favorite Dobro players, bluegrassy or not?
Who's that question from?
It's from Abby.
Oh, Abby. Thank you so much, Abby. I love you. I miss you. Thank you for hosting me. We're going so far. My favorite bluegrass player of all time is you. And my second favorite Dobro player of all time is Claudine. My third favorite Dobro player of all time is this guy, Stacy Phillips. He wrote the book, literally, right? $25. It's more than that now. If you're an aspiring Dobro player, you should get this. It's really worth it. Comes with 2 CDs, 240 pages. Stacy has 4 CDs. I've got them all here. I'm not going to show them right now. Stacy's in my heart, and I love him, and I love his playing. Stacy was, to me, the best Dobro player in the world that they ever made so far. What I really love about his playing probably is that he had huge ears, really, really just like light years ahead of his time. He was really, he had an amazing imagination, and he would go for it. That was a term that we used to use a lot, go for it. And he really, so on his first CD, Hey Mr. Get the Ball, there's everything on here. There's jazz, there's swing, there's old time, there's Hawaiian. So he really mixed it up pretty good. Harry Manx isn't really a Dobro player, but I do enjoy his playing a lot. He's more of a sort of a singer-songwriter who does some Indian stuff too, and I really love his playing. Debashish Bhattacharya is a great Indian player that I really love. Orville Johnson is a person that a lot of people don't know about. He's from Seattle, really great player and has some really great stuff. Who else can I think of? Females, right? Females. Cindy Cash Dollar. Cindy Cash Dollar was super kind to me. Love her. She's a really great player. Super tasty. She's got a couple solo CDs and some stuff. Sally Van Meter is really great too. Abby Gardner, who's semi-local, she's in, I think, New Jersey. And Yeah, Abby is semi-local, and she does solo stuff and plays with Red Molly. And one of my favorite dobro players in the whole world is Megan Mendenhall, who you'll be hearing. It's like a commercial. She's going to be playing at 5 p.m. as part of the Mendenhall sisters. She will do some dobro, but some banjo too, and she's 14. So I hope that's enough. Any other questions that we have right now? Should I do some more playing? So here's another sound that we do, which is false harmonics, artificial harmonics on the dobro. You do them on the guitar sometimes and you pick them with your finger. We can do it with the bar. So right now I'm on the 5th fret. So what I have to do is I have to pick the note that is on 12 frets higher, which is the 17th fret. But how can I do that if I've got this hand here and I go this hand to put it here? What am I going to pick the strings with? It's a trick question. I'm going to use the fat karate chop part of my hand, right? And I'm going to put that over the 17th fret with my bar on 5. 5, add 12, 17. Then I'm going to take my left thumb and I'm just going to put it down and I'm going to pick. And what I'm doing is I'm lifting that all in one motion. It's harder than it looks, but it's not. And then eventually I can karate chop the whole chord. As I start to move, if I'm playing individual notes, I have to move my right hand with my left hand in accordance. That's harder to do as you do that. And that's the difference between the Blue Jays and the Sparrows. Barney Isaacs is a really great Hawaiian player that you can look up. He plays incredible. He's dead, I believe, but he played some incredible stuff. I can't think of the duo he did, but anyway, Barney Isaacs, if you look him up, those guys, the Hawaiian players, are really like a whole other level with harmonics. They will play a whole melody using the artificial harmonics. And that's like a way of life. You really have to, it's like slants, you know, the slant thing. There'll be times when I'm not using slants a lot, and like anything, if you're not practicing them, then they start to get gnarly. So right now I'm playing slants a lot because I'm teaching Megan slants, and we're working on slants. We're working on a tune out of this book. The first Dobro book, which came out in 1978, Stacy Phillips, song in here, Golden Wedding Days by Shaw Jackson, which starts like this. So it's a lot of slanting, a lot of movement, and that was one of the first tunes that I learned, maybe a couple years into, a couple of weeks or so into my dobro life. Stacy said in his book that he used the tune to warm up with and to practice, just to keeping his slants in shape, sort of. And so I thought, well, if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. So I used to play that a lot at the beginning of my time, just as a warm-up, like played every day for a while. But like I said, if I don't play it regularly, it does go away, and I start to kind of flounder a little bit into no man's land. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions before we wrap it up? We're almost in the home stretch of the Dobro experience here at Club Passim. It's a virtual experience. It has been a real treat and pleasure to be with you this afternoon, virtually. It almost feels like home. And I should end with something tasteful, but instead I won't. What will I end with? I could just play a blues, I guess.
We have a request from Abby to wrap it up with a tune and showing off those harmonics.
Wow, Abby, okay. I'm going away today, won't be back no more. Going back down south, Lordy, don't you wanna go? I said I'm true. I'll be all waiting line. You know my little baby, Lord, she gon' jump and shout. She gon' be dreading better walking out. I said I'm cool. I'll be all well. I ain't never be satisfied. I just can't keep from crying. And when I'm in my sleep, Lord, I hear my doorbell ring. Don't for my baby, I don't see but a doggone thing. I said I'm through. I'll be all worried in mind. I just can't be satisfied. I just can't keep from crying. Thank you so much, everybody. And thank you, Club Passim. It's time for me to leave you. Don't forget to give money to the PEAR Fund, P-E-A-R, Passim Emergency Artist Relief Fund, and to donate money to the festival itself, which helps to cover expenses of the artists and other people who are in need. It's been a real treat playing for you today. I hope to see you around. If you have questions, send them to me or send them to Matt. He'll answer all of them, okay? Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you sometime soon.
She's the night when the good times are over. Where won't you come and stay a while? True, false, true lover of the morning. She's the night when the good times are over. Won't you come and stay?